Hey y'all, welcome to the Gone Outdoors podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is the place where we talk about all things hunting and fishing. As we like to say, if it's going on out there, then we're talking about it right here. So let's get after it with the latest episode.
All right, so I've got Walker Smith on the line. Walker has got an article in the July issue of GON on warm weather Linesides, and Walker's been writing for GON for quite a while, and it's always a great honor and pleasure, and super informative when we get them in the book. So thrilled to have this article. Walker, have we got you?
Yeah, man, I got you, Daryl. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you taking the time. Just want to start like we do a lot on this podcast, Walker, just with a little bit of your background, how you got into the outdoors, and then maybe a little bit about how you got into this industry, being an outdoor writer and editor.
Cool, man. Well, honestly, I think I kind of stumbled into it purposefully, though, if that's such a thing. Fishing, like most of the folks probably listening to this, fishing in the outdoors is all I've ever known in my entire life. I've never been good at fixing cars, doing anything except killing things and catching things. So,
yeah, right.
So I went to, long story short, I went to college, ended up and got 2 degrees, got a business management degree and an economics degree. I used neither. And ended up being that I met who's now one of my best friends, Matt Henry. He's a big fisherman around all of Georgia, and I'd venture to say the Southeast, too. He's very, very good tournament fisherman.
I think most of the tournament guys are going to recognize Matt Henry's name for sure.
Yeah, man, he's a hammer. And I met him at the boat ramp. I came to Georgia College. That's where I went to school.
Right, and that's in Milledgeville, right?
Yes, sir. I'm in Milledgeville. I currently live on Lake Sinclair. And but I came to Georgia College because it was close to a lake. That is the only reason I came here. It's not a slight against the school. I just wanted to go fishing between classes. So I was taking my boat out one day, and Henry, I call him Henry, Henry came up to me and said, "Hey, man, have you heard about our college bass fishing team?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I've been trying to get in touch with you." Long story short, I go on to be the president of the fishing team for 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. And we were nationally ranked across the entire country. I mean, we were ranked ahead of schools that had triple and quadruple our budget. And we were just a bunch of good old boys out there in these 10 bathtub boats fishing against really fancy boats, and we were catching them. And so I did that, and one day during Christmas break, I was back home. I was laying in bed one night, and I said, "You know what? I'm good at writing. I'm pretty good at fishing. Let me start a website." So I did that night. I started some crappy blog. I didn't know what I was doing, but I tried it. And I wrote for free for every local publication I possibly could. I wrote for free for, probably 2 years. And then, that kind of went up to regional and, or statewide, then regional. And then I got some national gigs. I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making a lot of sacrifices to do what I do for a living. My buddies would go out and have fun late at night, and I stayed home and wrote articles after I did my schoolwork. And that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. And sure enough, it seems like a blur, but I got offered a gig with Wired to Fish, my current company, and to be honest, I took a big pay cut to do it, and I don't regret it one bit. I love it.
So you've been with Wired to Fish how long now?
I think about 6 or 7 years. You'd have to ask my wife. I'm not very good with that stuff, but I think 6 or 7 years, yeah.
Right. Time flies, right? So you've got a pretty premier position with them, and I think most folks who are bass savvy or internet savvy know exactly who Wired to Fish is. If you don't, check them out. WiredToFish.com. Great stuff. But so all that leads you back to you're still in Milledgeville and still a local guy and still take part in this fishing. So we were lucky enough to get you to write an article for the July book. And So the title is Warm Weather is the Time for Hot Lineside Action. And tell the listeners a little bit about this bite and, why they might want to consider getting out there.
Buddy, I'm telling you, right now, this time of year, it's hot. It's not fun to go bass fish a lot of times. I cut my teeth bass fishing. And the bass right now are, of course, off their beds. They're out of their post-spawn mode. They're full-on summer mode. They're seeking right now the offshore deep water refuge of, better water quality conditions and lower temperatures. So they're a little bit more comfortable. And they're tough to catch. And so I had about 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine named Billy Benedetti. He's probably been in your book before. He's a tournament director for American Bass Anglers. Great guy. And he took me out and kind of showed me the ropes of the striper thing that he was doing. And I went out there with him once, and, man, it hooked me. And I went out and just studied and studied and studied. I spent hours looking at my electronics. And I figured this bite out on Sinclair, and, man, nobody fishes for these fish. And they bite hard, and they pull like a truck. You have to get out and try it.
Yeah, that's the truth. They are super fun to catch. So in the article, you mentioned a lot of times you'll start with, before you even get out on the water, right? You're looking at your Navionics web app. So tell the folks a little bit about that and what they need to be looking for there.
Yeah, so of course it helps if you have advanced electronics on your boat, but you don't have to have that. Anybody, it's not a subscription deal or anything. It's completely free. Anybody can just go to Google and type in Navionics space web app with 2 P's, Navionics web app. Go there and you can see an entire topographical map and contour map of your favorite lake. And what you're looking for this time of year is offshore humps, and that's where them stripers and hybrids are going to be.
Right. So in the article, we actually ran a picture. We ran an example that you had sent in. So in that example, real defined hump. They're easy to they're easy to see on a topo map, right? But the one you pointed out was right off the main river channel. Is that something that you're looking for?
Absolutely. And, I wish that I had like a really cool scientific explanation for it. But the best I can figure is these shad, I think these stripers and hybrids, I think they feed on both gizzard shad and threadfin shad. And I think they use these creek or river channels as migration routes. And I think as they're traveling up and down the lake doing whatever they do, they see these humps, the bait fish do, and they pull off on these humps just like you and I would pull over on a rest stop on an interstate. Right. And so they pull over and, again, do what they do, and this is they're perfect prey for these line sides because that hump, what it allows the line sides to do, they can pin that prey. It's like putting them on a dinner plate for them. They don't have to chase them around in open water and be too pelagic with it. They can pin them against the face of that hump, and it's a lot easier feeding opportunity than, chasing them in open water. Right.
Okay. So let's say, I get my Navionics web app and I find, a hump I want to try out. So I get in the boat, I head out there and, I've got electronics, hopefully everybody's got their, Lowrance or, they're good electronics on the boat. And, so first step, right, is, I got to find that hump. And, what are you looking for on your electronics?
What I'm looking for on my Lowrance is spaghetti. And that sounds crazy, and it's kind of hard to explain until you see it. But what you're looking for, I'm going to zigzag over the entire top of that hump and off the sides a little bit too, but I'm going to focus on the top of that hump. I'm going to zigzag just back and forth. And you might not see anything for 5-10 minutes, but you make one turn on the right path, and your graph is going to look like you're going to see big yellow and red arches coming up towards the surface of the water. So it's just going to look like spaghetti. And when you see those arches coming towards the surface, that means they're actively feeding stripers and hybrids down there. And
so that's actually what you're seeing, is you're seeing feeding fish when you see those long streaks that are up and down across the ground.
Yes, they are actively feeding. They are eating right now, and you need to stop whatever you're doing. Stop talking to your fishing buddy or talking to your wife on the phone. Cut the motor off and drop down on them, and they will bite. I promise.
That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, is there a preferred depth? I know every lake's a little different in how these fish are going to set up, but let's take Sinclair for example, just as a good starting point. What kind of depths are we looking for in terms of the hump, and then how far down you're probably going to see the bait and then the fish?
Yeah. So really, I think between 20 and 30 feet at the top of the hump. Not the sides, but the very top of the hump. 20 to 30 feet seems to be the optimal range throughout the entire summer. And I think, once you start getting to that 18 to 15 range at the top of some of these humps, I think they get spooked by the shadow of your boat or the sound of your trolling motor. Because, again, I'm fishing these fish vertical. So I'm right on top of them. But I think 20 to 30 feet, that's where I see the most activity. And that's where they're, a lot less aware of my presence, because once they know you're there, they're gone. These fish move nonstop. You'll see them on your bow mount graph for, you'll hook up and fight them for 6 to 8 minutes. By the time you get them in, that school's gone. They don't move far, but they move, 20, 30 yards away. They're always moving, and you got to keep searching for them.
Right. So, okay, when you first pull up on a hump, you've got the electronics going and you're doing your zigzag. You're just idling with the big motor?
Yeah, I'm idling with the big motor, and I'm a little bit of a old soul and old school guy, or maybe I'm just not great with electronics. I don't know which, but I'll go to Walmart and buy I go to Walmart, or Bass Pro has some good deals on them too. Some bright orange marker buoys with the lead tied to them and a string. And so when I start marking fish, so I'll start marking fish on my console graph, on my big motor. I'm marking fish. Right when those fish disappear is when I throw my buoy over my right shoulder behind the boat and let it hit the bottom. And that marks the end of the school of the fish. That way I can slowly make a wide circle away from that school with my big motor, and then cut the big motor off and sneak back up to that buoy area with my trolling motor. And they have no idea I'm there, and it's every single drop.
That's great. So vertical fishing, you mentioned that. So tell us what we need to have tied on to catch these fish.
Yeah, man. It's cheap. It's easy. Anybody can do it. Use a War Eagle, or you don't have to use this brand. It's the brand I prefer. It's a War Eagle jigging spoon. You can find them pretty much at every Walmart, I think. They're in a black blister package, and there's 2 to a pack. And I use a 7/8 ounce. They have lighter spoons, but I need a heavier spoon. And I say that because, as I mentioned, these fish move. They're pelagic. Line sides are pelagic. They're not like largemouth or spots at all. They're always moving. So when I see them on my front graph, I got to get that spoon down like yesterday. I got to get it down to them as soon as I can. And 7/8 ounce is the biggest I can find. I drop it down. It gets to them in about 4 seconds, and I'm hooked up by the 5th second.
In the article, you mentioned 2 lures. So you got the War Eagle, and then what's another option there that you'd like to try?
Well, you can use a steel shad, which is called, I guess the generic term for it is called a blade bait. And it essentially looks like a very, very skinny rattle trap with a weight on the front of it. And, they work well. They vibrate a lot. You fish them just like you do a spoon, but they vibrate a lot more. And what I'm finding, though, even this week, I had a couple trips earlier this week. I'm catching more on that spoon. I don't know why. I think that vibration might put them off and turn them off a little bit in that really clear water.
Right. Good stuff, man. Great summer pattern. Like you mentioned at the beginning, bass fishing's tough. Here's a bite when you can go out there, and this is all day, right? If you can find these fish, you can catch them, right?
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this is, as far as I can tell, the hotter it gets and the more sweat's running down your back, the more fish you're going to catch. I have no idea why, but that's how it is. And one more note about lures, or that spoon selection that we just discussed. Color selection is important, but it's not difficult. If it's sunny, drop a chrome or silver colored spoon. If it's cloudy, go with white. That's all you need.
Simple stuff, right? I mean, that's the beauty of the bite. And, you mentioned how hard these fish bite. Folks who have not caught a hybrid or a striper, but I mean, these fish, they'll rip your arms off and try to drag you in the lake. It's fun fishing.
You hook a some fishing line to your trailer hitch and tell your buddy to drop it.
Right.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, I take my wife out, my dad out. We just have a ball, and I have never ever had a trip out there where after 4 to 5 catches, the client or guest, whoever, friend, does not sit down and have to take a break. You will feel it the next day.
Final note about these fish. It's a put and take fishery, right? So all these fish are stocked by Department of Natural Resources. They're produced in hatcheries. We don't have, natural stripers in our inland reservoirs, and hybrids are a cross between striped bass and white bass. So, these fish are put out there, for anglers to have fun and catch. And also, every once in a while, take one home and eat it. They're excellent eating fish.
I really think it's the best eating fish in the lake. And yeah, I have no agenda. Cut that bloodline out and cut a little bit of that bloody fillet out on the skin side of the fillet. And
right, and it's that red. You're going to see the red when you fillet the fish. You just cut that out, right? And don't worry about getting you don't worry about wasting meat. You're going to have plenty of fillet there on one of these fish.
Oh man, and the Department of Natural Resources has done an unbelievable job. I know that some blue blood bass fishermen don't. They think that these linesides are trash fish. I like catching more than I like fishing. If it pulls back, I want to catch it, right? And, these days you have so many anti-hunting and anti-fishing groups out there trying to take away our pastime. But the DNR is doing the right thing. They're stocking these fish so we can take our kids out there. We can take our neighbors' kids out there, our nieces, our nephews, and we can give them an easy-to-catch fish that will pull their arms off, and they'll be hooked on fishing for life. They have the right idea, and we need to support them every step of the way.
Yeah, that's great stuff, and really appreciate you, writing a great article and joining us on the podcast and letting folks know about this pattern. It's truly one that folks can go out there and do and put fish in the boat and really have some fun. So, Walker, appreciate you. Anything? What's coming up for you? I know you're always busy in this crazy fishing business. What have you got on your plate here in the next foreseeable future?
Oh man, I've got a lot of riders events coming up, and that's where I go hopping the boat with the big time pros that are a lot better fishermen than me. The Kevin Van Dams, the Mike Iaconellis, the Daryl Swindles. I've got some appointments with them and go shoot some photos, some good videos, and we got ICAST coming up. That's the big trade show for the fishing industry, and so I think old Walker's going to be out of town for about 3.5 weeks of July. So I guess I'll see y'all in August.
So how folks want to follow what you're up to? How do they find Walker Smith?
Yeah, man. So the best place to find me is on Wired to Fish. We're the world's largest freshwater fishing website and one of the largest digital outdoor properties in the world. And that is spelled Wired, the number 2, WIRED, the number 2 fish.com. Go on there. We do daily tackle reviews, daily videos, daily features. If you wanted to learn anything about fishing, I guarantee you'll find it on our site.
Great stuff. And again, we'll put that link on the show notes. Y'all check them out. Walker, appreciate you, buddy. Always great to talk to you, and can't wait to do it again.
It was a blast, man. Thank you, buddy.